People assume risk every day.
If I told my wife, hey, I think I'm going to want to get into politics, my wife would be like, could we maybe not make that decision?
I have my convictions. I have my disagreements. I speak up a lot.
Do you want to go federal, like national?
I don't have aspirations to any higher office. I'm 35 minutes from the Capitol, so I get to come home every night when we're in session and see my kids and wife. Washington is a different beast. I introduced a resolution last term for congressional term limits. That didn't go anywhere. I think term limits is the best answer, but it's very hard to campaign.
I can tell you care for the people you represent. You know, I can tell you really want to do good by them.
I want America to be great. America should be first place in the world. With several other dads in the State House, we've introduced the Dads Defending Daughters Act, reserving girls' sports.
This should be such common sense. Like, what are these people saying when you're talking to them?
Many Democrats in secret support the bill. The problem is the politics that go behind that vote.
And none of them have the backbone to just vote.
Apparently not. Yeah, having the dialogue, I mean, we can all set a good example, especially in light of all the vitriol and division. If we can set an example of just, there's going to be disagreements, that's natural, but of just civil discourse. I mean, when emotions are high, I'm of the opinion you don't really see clearly. So
yes.
Not saying I'm totally unemotional, but when I make decisions, when I vote, when I speak on bills in the House, it's fact and evidence based. It's never emotion.
So walk me through that. Would you mind? What is your title? What is your role in the government? That we could just start there so people kind of know who you are. Maybe like a quick bio, and then we're going to jump into the pod.
Yeah, sure. So I represent the 47th legislative district in eastern York County. So that's about 65,000 people. I'm one of 203 representatives in the State House. I'm nearing 40 years old. I am in my second term, so I've only been at this for a little less than 3 years. My wife and I, Adrian, celebrated our 12th anniversary on the 29th of September, and I have two kids, 11-year-old Jude, 7-year-old Evie. And I've always loved our system of government. That's one of the reasons I ran in the first place. I think it's the best. The constitutional republic is the best system around. I think it served America very well. And I think we're a really unique state, unique country, and I'm proud to serve the people of the 47th.
So state representative, Pennsylvania. Why politics? What got you here?
Well, so when I came in, the timing was very important. This was on the heels of COVID. And there's opinions abound about how serious COVID was, the whole vaccine debate. But one thing I felt extremely strong about was we saw this wielding of unilateral power from our executive branches. And in Pennsylvania, it was acute. Governor Wolf was deciding which businesses were essential. Never told churches in Pennsylvania that they couldn't meet, but there was that idea that they couldn't. Our church met. But the livelihood of businesses are at stake. And COVID was, a spectrum of opinions, but people assume risk every day. And it was preposterous to me that the government was telling us how we could meet, where we could meet, in what numbers. And it took a toll. It took a toll on businesses in Pennsylvania. It took a toll on, frankly, people's mental health, students' success. And I saw that as a communications director at Praise Community Church in York, and I thought to myself, this needs to change. And, my predecessor, I just didn't see much action from him, so I ended up challenging him in a primary and won.
Wow. What was the reaction to your wife when you said, because, okay, like, let's paint the picture from my perspective for the listener. So 2020, very controversial year, tensions high. right versus left, vaccines versus no vaccine, masks for no masks, and then as political discourse, I mean, obviously, like, it's getting more and more divisive. If I told my wife, "Hey, I think I'm gonna wanna get into politics," my wife would be like, could we maybe not make that decision?" What was the reaction when you told your wife, "Hey, I'm thinking about running for state representative?"
So Adrian's pretty apolitical. So now she always votes and she knows where she stands. But she's pretty apolitical. So we don't really have dinner table conversations about politics, maybe goings on of the day if it was a wild day in Harrisburg. But um, the thing that made a difference with Adrian was on top of being interested, on top of being up on current events and wanting to make a difference, especially post COVID, I truly felt like I was called by God.
Mm,
And that was confirmed through people I trust. I didn't take that lightly. I actually, when I first started to hear that in prayer, I really fought it for quite a while because I liked where I was working and, you went over it. I mean, there's many things undesirable about politics, but that was the selling point for Adrian because, if you flip the script and she was telling me she was called to this or that, I'm not going to argue with what God's telling you. So I think it's the position of the husband or wife to get behind their spouse if that's the case. So um wasn't really hard. I mean, there's time management things that we've had to work through. There's certain
is it full-time gig? Full-time
Pennsylvania
full-time
is a
job?
full-time legislature, so maybe it shouldn't be. But good luck changing that because 203 members in the House would be voting to
Cut their salary.
cut their salaries.
Could you walk me through a day? So, I mean, I told you our show is very much of like I love learning, and a lot of our listeners love learning new careers, new jobs, and I know I want to get specifically soon to what you're wanting to change. We had talked about that, and I want to get there. Specific bills you're working on, specific issues you see in our culture and our lives. I want to get there. Before we do that, like, what is a day in the life of a representative of a state?
Yeah, so we're in session probably 6, 7, 8 days a month. So although we're a full-time legislature, I spend the lion's share of my time in my district office. In Harrisburg, when we're in session, I mean, I'm on 4 committees: communications and technology, education, labor and industry, and commerce. Those are pretty active committees. So um, there will often be committee meetings before session starts, and there's preparation work that go into those committee meetings. There's bills and resolutions that we're voting on, and some members, just vote and don't wish to speak on matters very often. But I'm not like that. I like to represent my constituents and voice concerns and objections or support. Um, and I do my best work from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. So I'm up at the Capitol very early. I'm preparing my remarks for committee or floor debate. So those are long days. In the district, it's filled with meeting with businesses, individuals. Our office exists to serve our 65,000 constituents. That might look like an issue with PennDOT or the Department of Revenue or some other
Sure.
department. So we're pretty busy helping constituents in that way. And then we have a pretty robust outreach at our district. I like to make myself available through mini town halls that we call Java with Joe. We also have veterans events, concealed carry events. We just want to be out there available, educating the public on what we can do for them. And I love the people of the 47th. I really like interacting with them, taking their questions, and I love representing them.
How do those town hall meetings go? Because I've seen some wild town hall videos. Are your guys' pretty fair and controlled, or does it get a little rambunctious sometimes?
It often doesn't get rambunctious, actually. I've known the people of the 47th, even if they disagree, to be really respectful. But what we've done
Mm,
lately is we've had themed meetings. So the next one we have coming up is on AI and data centers. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of questions around AI. I'm bringing in a representative from Columbia County who's on the state's AI task force. So I try to bring in
Me.
people who know more than me about the subject. And then the topic of data centers. Pennsylvania is really in an interesting spot. We had that summit in Pittsburgh a couple months ago where Senator McCormick and President Trump announced this giant private investment in the state in lieu of
Yeah.
AI. So that's starting to translate into some of my townships and municipalities. There's these proposals for data centers, and I've heard both sides from my constituents. The positives are, it's tax revenue, of course, but there's also concerns about, you know, developing farmland, which isn't good, and then energy use.
Mm.
So, we've been told for a long time that the grid isn't really sustainable, and it's a right concern to have to ask questions at least about those GPUs eat up a ton of energy. So I'm excited to have that town hall and hear what people have to say.
Are you leaning towards a certain way right now in your head, or you don't want to? You want to wait until you have the town hall discussion before you?
No, I mean I don't have a strong position either way, and the reason I don't is because it's a local decision. So
Yeah.
if East Manchester Township wants to rezone their elected officials, and they have a greater pulse of that locale, really, as they should. So I see the benefits, I see the risks. Um, my ask of these data center proposals is that they create their own energy, and that's what we're seeing a lot. So I don't want
Hmm.
my communities to be losing out because of this data center sucking up energy. But that's a township or municipality decision. So I feel like I shouldn't have a stake.
Dude, what a great answer. I mean, so this is actually a perfectly timed podcast for me. I have a client who is very liberal, hates Trump, you know, just one of this, but we have great conversations and I respect him a lot. I disagree vehemently with him, but we have great conversations. And he was just telling me about a representative in Michigan that's a Republican who doesn't live in the district, never checks in the district, never is at the district office. And I don't know, again, two sides to every story. Don't know if this is true, not true. But I just love your pulse. I can tell you care for the people you represent. You know, I can tell you really want to do good by them. Which leads me to this question. And then I want to go into the bills and some of the things that you've been working on. So, from a layman looking into House of Representatives and senators and all this kind of stuff, you see all the time where people will just do whatever it takes to keep the votes. You see all the time they're going to go back and forth and really almost have no backbone, not really even represent, just do whatever they'll say, whatever they need to say to keep their job. How have you found that to be challenging for you specifically? Have you seen that happen where people will just flip-flop on issues based on whatever gets them their seat again? How and then, like, how do you as a representative balance personal morals with, like, representing a group of people that might not have the same moral standard that you might have, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense?
Well, the way our system works, I'm a proxy for the
Mm,
65,000 people I represent. So there are issues, moral issues where I have convictions where I am where I am. And the people who voted me in know that. There's some other issues that I don't really have a strong position, and it's actually much more valuable that I get a pulse of the district. I'll give you an example. Open primaries has been something I've heard about. I remember having a teletown hall on open primaries, hoping, that it would be 80-20 for or against so that I could get a clearer picture of where my people stood. And it was like 50-50.
mm.
And I was like, come on, guys. I was actually hoping that you could move the needle. So it's one of those things, kind of like data centers, where I see both sides, and I can
Mm,
make a good argument either way. But I am their proxy. As far as reelection being a motive, it happens every day up in Harrisburg. It's very
Yeah.
frustrating. I told people from when I was campaigning and at first until today, I'm not there to get reelected. If my voting record and what I have to say and what I do is distasteful to the people of the 47th, they can vote me out. I'll work in the private sector. I'm not tied to this job. There's few people in the Capitol that have that position. Most of the votes, the more controversial ones, are fueled by what will get me reelected, what will get me back in this seat next term, and that's a reality of Harrisburg. But it's really difficult to watch.
I mean, I think it's nationwide. You know, you can see it. How do we fix? I mean, how is there a fix to this? Like, in some ways, is this model broken? You know, or is there? How do we get people to? I mean, do we just need more good people running? I mean, is it as simple as that?
That's part of it. I think term limits would help. The negative of term limits is if you have a really principled, strong person, they you limit them. I
Yeah,
actually
like Nancy Pelosi.
yeah.
Or no, see, I'm kidding.
Josh Hawley is a guy that I really like in the Senate
Hmm.
from Missouri. But yeah, I introduced a resolution last term for congressional term limits that didn't go anywhere. But I think term limits is the best answer. But yeah, of course, if there's a lot of people out there that won't run for office because of everything that goes with it. It's very hard to campaign. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of hoops to jump through with the Department of State, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of times it's a thankless job. So we're definitely in need of principled people to step into the field.
Hmm. Yeah, I just looked up. I mean, I'm like Josh Hawley, and I look out. Yeah, that dude is a stud. Josh Hawley, when he does like the Senate hearings, and there's someone that he's, I don't know, grilling for lack of a better term, he comes so prepared.
Yep.
He does such a great job. Um, don't know him. Would love to know him. Would love to get him on. Would love to say hi. But like, he's one of those people that you watch, and I'm like, man, like he seems like one of those that he has his morals. He believes what he believes, and he doesn't back down from him. And that's awesome.
Yeah, he's a guy that
Um,
I would love to see run for. I mean, he's in the U.S. Senate. Maybe run for president someday. He is
I agree.
sharp. He's thoughtful.
Maybe a Vance Hawley ticket or something.
Vance
I
Hawley
don't know.
sounds good.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Um, do you want to go federal, like
We
national?
can.
I mean, I'm saying, do you want to
Oh,
get there personally?
I
Like
I don't have
U.S. House of Representatives or
I don't have aspirations to any higher office at all. Not saying it wouldn't happen, but
you better be careful. That's how God sometimes uses those people
yep,
that
that's what I'm
don't
afraid
see that
of.
direction. Yeah. Why is that not an aspiration for you?
Well, so just logistically, I'm 35 minutes from the Capitol, so I get to come home
Mm,
every night when we're in session and see my kids and wife. Washington is a different beast. I have good relationships with my congressmen that overlap with my district, Smucker and Perry, and they're down there all the time.
mm.
Not to mention the traffic, but it's what I do times 10. More hate mail, more constituency, and
What's constituency mean for those that
just
don't
the
know?
amount of people you represent. So they
Okay.
represent about 750,000 people in the U.S. House. So
Mm.
you have a bigger staff, of course, but it's a different, bigger swamp in Washington than it is in Harrisburg.
How has the hate been on the local level? Has that been something more than you expected or less than you expected?
Um, so everybody gets it, Republican, Democrat. It's been less than I expected. There's certain groups and stakeholders that you hear more stuff from, and it's there's disagreement, of course, there's blame, but sometimes there's a viciousness that is kind of surprising.
Hmm. Is it normally from the same type of group of people? that it comes from?
It is.
Okay, cool. I can guesstimate, kind of what we're talking about here. That's great. Yeah, I mean, even on my side, dude, like I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian, and I've had conservatives on, I'm gonna have liberals on, but the hate that I get, I mean, like I've lost business opportunities here in Detroit because people are like, oh, you have a podcast, let me check out your podcast, and they're like, ew, you've had this person on, or you said, I mean, it is even on a very small podcast local level, like it's very visceral. It's very real.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even just scroll through some of my comments and you're like, whoa, that's wild. And I'm like, I'm not even like edgy. I'm like, I feel like I'm one of the moderates,
Yeah.
And even then people still figure out a way to like have a big beef with you.
Yeah. I mean, I really temper my language. Like there was actually an event on the House floor the other day that like a conflict. And I remember thinking to myself, man, these people really lack self-control. When your
Hmm.
emotions are so, uh, spiraling that you would, judge someone else or, make a derogatory comment about something else. That's very easy for me to avoid. I mean, I have my convictions, I have my disagreements, I speak up a lot, but, um, you know, my constituents don't want me to pick fights and use language that they wouldn't be proud of.
Yeah. I mean, even and not to like even when the what's U.S. Capitol was that or the U.S. representatives they tried to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, and the left just started booing and saying no. I'm like that to me just like that's what I told my buddy. I'm like, listen, bro, like I just don't know how you watch that and think to yourself, I'm voting for the right side. Like I just say, and I know the right isn't perfect, Republicans aren't perfect. There's a bunch of bad Republicans, but like I watch that and I'm like, how do you support that? Like that just
That's
it's sickening.
Yeah,
It's
that's intolerable stuff. I mean, I have to think if the fortunes or the events were reversed, I would never dream, and I can't think of another member in the House on the Republican side that would dream of shouting, if whoever was assassinated on the Democrat side, that
right,
I would I would issue a moment of silence without
100%.
pause. So,
Yeah, it just yeah, and do you have that type of like so national right now? There's a lot of rough stuff with Charlie Kirk being assassinated, and I mean, has that drifted down to tensions rising all the way in the local and state level?
so we had a Charlie Kirk vigil here in my district in Springettsbury Township. It was very peaceful. I was at a service for some police officers. Actually, we had three police officers in York County that were killed serving a warrant. I knew one of the
Mm,
guys. Really tough last couple of weeks for York County. Um, there's people uh, in unison in York County support our police and what they do and the risks they take. With the Charlie Kirk thing, I mean, save a few Facebook comments, which don't really mean that much to me. I mean,
no,
social
yeah,
media isn't real life. So 90% of those people that make derogatory comments wouldn't say those things if they were face to face with me. So in a lot of ways, I consider it kind of fake. But no, I mean, York County is a great place. It's people have their beliefs about Charlie Kirk. We've not seen that much of that around here.
mm. Yeah, I like to think social media is just a window into people's soul, and they don't even really understand that they're letting you in. But like every comment and reaction is just a window to who they are. And I think a lot of people with the Charlie Kirk thing particularly exposed who they are. They've exposed that either their hate for some political values has so clouded their mind that they're willing to say awful things, make fun of that you're right, they would never say in person. But I made a post about it, and I basically said, like, I would encourage everyone to stop typing because you are just getting yourself into trouble. But then someone else commented and they said, actually, this is great because we get to know who the good and bad people are right now.
Hmm.
And they're just outing themselves as you would never know. But like because of social media, like I have so many people in Michigan that I've seen things. I'm like, Really? Like I thought you were awesome. And then you say things like, I'm glad he's dead. Like that, it just, again, I think it just shows you what sin does, shows you what hate does. It shows you, like you mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, emotions cloud judgment.
Hmm.
And I think that's what you're seeing across the nation right now. And social media does not help.
Yeah, it's very difficult too for me to not judge when you see these horrible comments, not to judge those people, because that to me is intolerable. I mean, you're celebrating a person's death. And by the way, I believe this, and Nick Freitas said it. He was assassinated because he was effective.
Yeah,
The
100%.
left has enjoyed, a huge percentage of the voters and the ideologies of college kids for decades. And Charlie, I can't think of anyone more responsible for the shift that we're seeing, especially with Generation Z men, than Charlie Kirk. And that was a threat to that establishment. So, we're still learning about how this happened and if there were any accomplices. So I'm not speaking to that, but I think generally speaking, he's gone because he was effective.
100%. Is it the impact of shaping the next generation cannot be understood. Like I told my wife when it happened, I said, the Charlie Kirk's assassination is more impactful on our nation than if Trump would have been assassinated back in Pennsylvania when he was campaigning. And I'm not saying it would have like, obviously if that, when Trump got nicked his ear and that shooting happened, right? That was very shocking. Even the fact that someone took a chance, but the Charlie Kirk one, I think he was 31. He was a family man. He just wanted, he wasn't even a political figure. He didn't hold a political office. And that's the difference, I think. Because political figures and people that hold like presidents, like, okay, it's kind of part of the dangers of the job, right? Like, okay, if that happens, if Biden or Obama or, whoever, Trump gets assassinated, it's like, okay, like, it's awful, but look at Lincoln, look at JFK, like it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just assassinated like a president, but he wasn't a president. He was just a dude that had an organization that wanted people to free think and free debate. And I think that's why it hits so hard. And I'm the same age as Charlie. I have 2 kids, and it wrecked so many people. And then to see the people, like you were saying, like make fun of that, it's just, I just don't get it. Like, it's just one of the things I just don't understand.
Yeah, it's a corruptness of heart, really, which is
Yeah.
the most shocking part of it. And there's a lot of issues like that really can't be legislated.
Mm.
I was speaking at an event the other day, and it seemed like the questions were angled towards, us legislators solving all of these moral, spiritual, societal problems. And I actually gave the example. I asked everyone in the room if they were familiar with the Rochester Revival, which was Charles Finney's. He had sparked a revival just through the preaching of the gospel and signs and wonders, actually.
Mm.
And the moral atmosphere of Rochester changed. So, and that includes intact families and the sort of things that spell a healthy society, but it was a spiritual renewal that occurred in Rochester, New York. And
Mm.
that can save us. A litany of bills that try to take the place of a moral compass does not.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And even the amount of people that are, the right has gotten emotional as a response to these evil things, saying, like you said, we should have legislation shutting down hate speech. It's like, no, guys, whoa, whoa, pause. That's what we've been fighting against this whole time. Now, there might be Matt Walsh, actually, I think Nick actually did a very similar post to this too. Nick Fried about like there should be social consequences for speech, just not government consequences.
Yep.
So like you can say awful, mean, and nasty things and lose your job. There's still free speech happening. You just had a social consequence because you're a terrible person. But there shouldn't be necessarily legislative, you can't say this. Like that's where we have to stop.
Absolutely.
That's where we have to
And
be very careful
I
of.
was surprised with some people in the Republican Party were going down that road. And that's a horrible precedent to set.
But it's emotions, though.
It is.
It's emotions. That's again the thing. We preach so long free speech, like stop, and then all of a sudden, and it's again, he's our guy, and tensions are so high that we're like, no, hate speech has to stop. Legislators and emotions get so wild up that we're like, okay, pause. Like, wait, we're doing what they're doing. Like, we have to stop.
Yeah.
And I've seen even people like on X, like people that were like free speech absolutists, were tweeting things like, we need legislation to keep this stuff from. And I'm like, whoa, like, where's this coming from? But again, it's emotions.
That's the most important of our constitutional rights. And save I think the case law has established that a specific threat, you're kind of vacating constitutionally protected speech when you're making a specific threat. But other than that, I mean, hate or not hate speech, it's inherently is not violent. It's
Right.
Not saying people don't say twisted things, perverted things, and it's horrible, but what a horrible precedent to set. I mean, UK has crossed this boundary. They're imprisoning people for
Posting.
posting or sharing. I mean, that is wild.
Right. Right. I mean, UK should terrify US citizens. Terrify. And if there's like what socialism and woke ideology does to a country, look at the UK. And it should terrify you. Like, this is why free speech is so important. Even speech we hate, even speech that, like, I think it's vile and wrong. Like when you're making fun of Erica Kirk because you don't think she's grieving in a way you think she should be grieving.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's beyond, but I'm like, hey, you're free to say it. There's might be social consequences for it. There's this famous TikToker, I don't remember her name. She did this like thoughts and prayers video for Charlie Kirk, and it was like this very like literally right when he got shot, and it was a fake thing, and basically people found out that her boyfriend has a company, and it just got rained on like with 1-star reviews. It's pretty much out of business now, and people are like, oh, these Republicans have no regard for free speech. It's like, no. Free speech doesn't mean free without consequences.
Right.
Now, we're not asking the government to shut you down, but as a result, like, because she was so insensitive to a moment, she pretty much destroyed her boyfriend's business. And personally, I think that's fair game.
Yeah, there is a line there. I mean, there's been a handful of people across the state of Pennsylvania, various vocations, nurses, people in the education space who resigned or lost their jobs, and that's not a breach of free speech. That's a conduct violation. Those policies are worked out, and in that case they've reaped what they sowed. But governmental intervention and punishment for saying something even that we regard as vile, I'll be the first to stand in opposition to that, especially if it's on the other side.
Yeah.
People have a right to free speech. Unconditional right.
Now, there are some things, though, that we can legislate that are potentially moral issues, and there's one that you're really passionate about right now, and it's women or men being in women's sports. That's been something right now that's been a hot debate, which the fact that it's even a debate shows you where we're at. But like, that's something you're very passionate about. You're putting bills trying to protect, women, young girls, from terrible situations. I'd love you to talk about what you're doing in that movement.
Yeah, so I've with several other dads in the state house, we've introduced the Dads Defending Daughters Act, which is House Bill 1849, basically reserving girls' sports to biological girls and reserving boys' sports to biological boys. It's very common sense. In fact, there was a New York Times Ipsos poll that showed 79% support for this very ideal. I was a Division I athlete. I have a 7-year-old daughter. It's also personal to me. Now, the history of this initiative, Dillon, is we have a couple of bills that would achieve this end in the House and the Senate. I sit on the House Education Committee. There's actually a mechanism called a discharge resolution. So Senate Bill 9, which was the Save Women's Sports Act, passed bipartisan support in the Senate, came over to the House. It sat in in the House Education Committee. Actually, the majority chairman said he would not consider it. So within our House rules, if 15 session days ticks by and the bill has yet to be considered, we can collect 25 signatures, either party, in this discharge resolution, which in effect fast forwards it to the House for full consideration. What the Democrats did was they have 24 hours to react to that resolution. And before that time had expired, they re-referred the bill out of education to the Health Committee, which is not an applicable committee for an interscholastic bill. And the shot clock essentially started over. So that was a procedural trick. In my opinion, it was cowardly. Look, if you in principle disagree with that, put up the vote. Show your constituents that you'll either stand behind their daughters and granddaughters and nieces, or if you have an ideological issue with that, fine, vote against it. But instead of putting up a vote, they're pulling these parlor tricks, and it's currently in the Health Committee. But with the Dads Defending Daughters Act, that was interestingly referred to education. So we're counting down the days, and we plan on a discharge resolution, and we'll do anything we can to bring it up for consideration.
So have you been able to have like one-on-one conversations with the Democrats that are voting against this, or like trying not to let it hit? Like, what are they saying? Like, why aren't they? Well, like, this should be such common sense that we do not want men changing in front of our daughters. We don't want our daughters forced to be in a locker room with a dude. Like, it should be very common. Like, it's not hard. I don't want my daughter hurt with a dude spiking a volleyball 3 times faster than the average girl, right? Like, what are these people saying when you're talking to them on why they want to prove this?
So many Democrats in secret support the bill, support the initiative. The problem is the politics that go behind that vote, and the lobby or the activists that are, entrenched in the National Democrat Party that, for whatever reason, oppose it and want to keep this charade continuing. That's very frustrating. I know several of the Democrats on the House Education Committee who have daughters who were athletes. It was very difficult for me, for them in unison to vote to re-refer that bill.
And none of them have the backbone to just vote.
Apparently not. I tried to put myself in their shoes. If our leadership in the House wouldn't be on this issue, obviously, but another issue, if I had such a strong conviction and they said, hey, I need you to vote to re-refer this, I would say, absolutely not. And I don't care the cost. I don't care the repercussions. I'm not here, my boss isn't the House Republican leadership. It's the 65,000 people who sent me here. So that's not how I operate. I think you see more of that groupthink, stuff from that side of the aisle.
How do you deal with the, again, back to the word emotions, but like for me, I'd get so frustrated. I don't think I'd be in politics because I like to think that I would be able to control myself, but like, especially if I had relationships with these people, like I would just be calling them, being like, bro, what are you doing? I mean, does that happen? And like, do you have that type of relationship where you can just confront people when it comes to bills like this?
Yeah, with that particular bill, I mean, you're right. I was so frustrated. And I've had a couple of conversations with some of the members that, frankly, it didn't go anywhere. To give you a positive here, I'll tell you a story about a bill that I passed this session, House Bill 355, which increases the penalty or prison time for people in positions of authority who prey on minors, corruption of minor.
Sounds great.
I had the bill last session, inspired by a constituent meeting that I took. And we did a lot of work. I put it out there, never considered in committee, presumably because I have an R behind my name. At the start of this session, I thought to myself, I want this bill to pass. and I don't care whose name is on it. And if the method to get it passed is to partner with a Democrat who believes in it strongly, then that's what I'll do. So I started shopping the bill, and I came across a representative from Chester County, Chris Pielli, who had a similar instance that happened in his district. And he said, yeah, let's do it. And I said,
Hmm.
we introduced the identical bill this session, House Bill 355. I was a co-prime, but his name was first. And we both together lobbied for it. We contacted the chair of Judiciary Committee. We contacted him again and again and again. And we got a voting meeting. It passed committee unanimously, passed the House unanimously, and then the Senate unanimously. The governor signed it into law June 5th. So
Good.
I'd like to think that could happen with the girls' sports issue. I don't know that there's an appetite for that now, but I can tell you it occurs. And we got more justice for victims in Pennsylvania because we were able to work together. So it does happen.
That's
I'd
awesome.
like to see more of it.
Do you think that can happen more? Do you think what's keeping it from it? Let me try to figure out how to phrase this question. Trump is very divisive to where the left hates him so much. It's like anything the right does, like you just said, it could be the best bill ever. We're going to shoot it down because the Republicans say this is good. Therefore, we're just going to bite. We have to say no to it, even if it's a good thing for the people. Do you think when Trump gets out of office, whoever the next person is, if it's Vance or whoever, do you think it might, like, people might come together a little bit more because Trump's not involved and the hate for Trump won't be there as much?
I would say that's probable, Dillon. You're right. I mean, I just got an email this morning, blaming me for things that are federal. So some people conflate the state for federal. I have no control over federal matters, but yeah, I think it trickles down. It's common, in floor debate for Democrats to associate, what we're doing with Trump, and it's kind of irrelevant at the state level. But to answer your question, I think it's probable, and I'm hopeful of that. I mean, I think you're right. It's a fact that he is divisive. I really like a lot of the things that he's doing foreign diplomacy wise and with the economy, but he can't help himself sometimes. And
Yeah.
sometimes I cringe, sometimes I laugh, but he can't help himself, and it is a divisive environment.
It's interesting because, like, sometimes the things that make us laugh enrage the other side. Like, he would make like a funny thing, right? Oh, that was kind of funny. He's smart, he's funny. And then they don't like, so this guy was talking about, like, he mentioned a joke. It was a joke that Trump made. That was a funny, joke. And he's like, can you believe Trump said this? It's like, it was a joke.
Well, he was.
He's funny. Like,
It's flabbergasting because he was like a darling of the Democrat
yes.
Party when he was.
The View loved
Yeah, he
him.
was doing The
Like,
Apprentice. He was a businessman, and then
the
overnight
moment that R showed up by his
it
name.
switched.
Yeah, it is a wild thing. And I'm not a Trumper, right? Like, I'm not one of the, like, I don't even think I'm a MAGA guy. Like, I'm more or less like I love small government. I love the Constitution. I love the Bible. And if you give me an option between Trump and Hillary Clinton, I'm going Trump. If you give me an opportunity between Trump and Biden, I'm going Trump. If you give me an option between Trump and Kamala, I'm going Trump. Like, it's like, I don't even see how you can see any other possible option there, right? But I'm not like a Trump. Like, I think there's some people that just ride his coattails too much, and anything he says is like almost inspired. I'm like, all right, well, we need to. That's dangerous too.
Yeah,
But
that's where I am. Making America great is like, why wouldn't that be like a 90-10 issue? I
right,
want America to be great. I don't
yeah,
want China to be, eating our lunch with a trade deficit. Of course, our people come first. That would
yeah,
be like me lobbying for people in Erie County. No, my
right,
people are first to me.
right,
Americans should be first to the to the highest office in the
Like,
land.
we shouldn't be paying foreign nations all this money and them not paying us anything. Like,
Yep.
that shouldn't happen either, right? Like,
I want our military to be strong. I want us to,
we shouldn't have fat generals.
yes,
Like,
I want us to wield influence nationally or globally and prevent wars.
yeah,
Um, America should be first place in the world. And so I think the making America great in principle is great. I think what's associated with MAGA, though, like you mentioned, is inevitably divisive.
yeah,
So I'm not like a hat wearing MAGA guy, but
yeah,
do I agree that America should be great again? Yeah.
yeah. One thing you can't argue, man, Trump can push merch, dude. He can he can sell he can sell some merchandise. I mean, the thing is, dude, he is a businessman and he can't help it. Like, what president has merch to sell? Like, he just cannot help himself when it comes to like, anything from crypto to like he sees an opportunity. He's a business guy.
Well,
Like
and
he just
that's one of the reasons I think he's effective is it's a departure from the model of the career politician to someone who actually
yeah.
has experience negotiating and getting deals done. And globally, that's been his strength. I mean, he's negotiated things that are pro-American that hadn't been done for a while. And we want somebody who can negotiate hard and good and care for our interests, and he does that.
What do you say to the people though that listen to you say that and they're like, "Nah, you're full of crap. Like he's a terrible guy. He always lies. He's doing what's worse for America. He's destroying America." What do you say to that response, in your opinion?
Well, it's ironic because so he's forward with what he says, and the legacy media helps retell every story of every mistake he's ever made. But um, you take a look at some of the things that Biden has done, allegedly done, said. Um, he's a guy of low character, in my opinion.
Right.
Obama
Right.
was very good. He was diplomatic. Um, good public speaker, but I don't view like Obama or Biden or Bill Clinton as these moral high ground guys compared to Trump.
Yeah.
So I think it's very
And at minimum, Trump's equal to that. Like, Trump might not be this like Christian knight on shining armor. Like, he has stuff in his closet too.
absolutely,
But like, you can't. You. I think it is what you said. It is ironic. Like, you can't hate on Trump
yeah.
and then vote for Biden.
The standard changed when he became president for the first time, and certainly the second time. All of a sudden, uh, the standard for the office was like a pastor. I remember saying that back in 2016. I was like, what happened? Because I remember in my lifetime, Clinton was a completely immoral guy.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
Obama, Biden, not high character individuals, in my opinion. And then we get a guy, that people hate, and all of a sudden he needs to be a polished pastor. And I don't agree with that double standard.
Yeah. Hmm. I do also think like there are people that are so convinced that Trump is evil that there's nothing you can say that'll change their mind, really. Like, I just think they're just convinced, and that's why. So when Charlie Kirk got shot, I released a video, and it was emotional. Like, I was pissed. I was very angry, and I was angry at people like Joy Reid. I was angry at people like Janine Hill or whatever her name is. She's I'm angry at the people for years that have called conservatives, specifically conservative white men, white supremacists, Stalin, Hitler, hate like that rhetoric has consequences, and it just when but those are the people that they view like they think they're right and they think we're evil. Like that's just the reality. And there's no I don't know if there's any amount of debate that'll change their mind. Like I don't know. Like Charlie believed it. I'm starting to wonder if that's true.
You have to be humble enough to handle any kind of rebuke or differing opinion. And if someone's not humble enough to even listen to you, I mean, I just wipe my hands of it. I don't
Yeah.
judge them, but look, if you came to me, Dillon, and you said, I think you're doing the Dads Defending Daughters Act all wrong, here's my suggestions, I would say, great. You might have some good suggestions there that I might be able to change and do a better job.
Mhm.
But if I just say, no, I know everything about the topic, why proceed?
Yeah. Or if you go back to them and you say, "Would you mind me sharing why we're doing it this way?" And they're like, "Nope." Then you're like, their opinion no longer has any validity.
Yeah,
And that's why. And yeah, go
it's
ahead.
not necessary to continue the conversation then,
Correct.
because
Yeah.
it's a waste of time.
And I've been blessed to have actually in the past 2 weeks since I've had two conversations with liberal minded people that have been wonderful conversations. And I left feeling blessed and I was like encouraged, like, okay, there can discourse can still happen. And that is encouraging. You know what Charlie always said, when talking stops, that's when civil war starts. So I do think we need to keep trying to carry the mental, but there are certain people, like specifically Joy Reid, for example, and some other of those just rhetoric driving, race baiting individuals that just drive me up a wall, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it
And
drive me
they
insane.
throw out these terms. You mentioned white supremacy. I've never met someone who I would label as a white supremacist. I think
Oh yeah, me
it's
too.
a
Yeah.
vile thing to believe, but I've never come across one. And then the whole Christian nationalism thing. I often ask when that comes up, what is that?
Yeah.
I feel like Matt Walsh saying, what is that? To
What is
the
that?
clip for the women where he pressed those interviewers, what is a woman? um, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I think it's this term that probably was produced in academia.
Mm.
But I'm still on the hunt for a definition.
Well, I heard someone say the definition that is like, you want this nation to be resembled, that it's a Christian nation, that we, respect God, and you want all people to become Christians. I'm like, well, if that's the definition, call me up a Christian nationalist. Like, because I'm like, yeah, I like this nation was founded in faith. And God we trust. And I want everyone to come to Jesus. I want everyone to believe the gospel. So if you're like, if you're going to define it as you want America to be a Christian nation, a God-fearing nation, and you want all people to repent and believe, like, sure. If that's your definition, but it's coined so negatively. I haven't really heard a definition that like is a terrible thing.
Yeah, I mean that's my desire too. It's my desire, but it's not something to be forced. And I know you didn't mean that when you expressed
Sure.
support. There's a line between desiring it and legislating it.
What would legislating that you mean, like not allowing any other religions, for example? Yeah,
And that would be
correct.
unconstitutional.
Agreed. Absolutely. I do think there's a conversation to be had for religions that, like the UK, that are takeover religions. Like I do think there's one specific religion that I do think it's interesting
Hmm.
because it is a death to the West. They it's a takeover religion, and I have wondered in legislation, like personally, like when we say freedom of religion, how does that go hand in hand with the safety of our people?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because then you look at the UK and what's happening there. Like, should should there be? And this, I'm just thinking, like, should there be freedom of religion to where you're putting your people in danger?
yeah. So that's kind of similar to the free speech lane that we didn't want to cross. I understand what you're saying. Um, the context of our founding documents was so you had all of these people from tyrannical Christian
Mm,
monarchies, uh,
mm,
Netherlands, Germany, England, of course, Spain, Portugal. So when first of all, separation of church and state is a line that's thrown out. It's nowhere in our documents, so that's historically inaccurate. That
hmm,
line is actually in a letter to the Danbury Baptists Association talking about sects of Christianity, denominations of Christianity from Jefferson. So I think that needs to be clear. But I would implore the UK people, you can't. It's I would be very slow to judge, an entire religion, because there's people out there that don't hold those tenets of wanting to take a government over. But UK and a lot of its policies and a lot of their inaction have wrought that. That's their fault. They've allowed these policies. They've allowed these. The mayor of London has allowed strange things to go on. um, that's on them. We can't allow that to happen here for any denomination or religion.
I think it's a slippery slope too, right? Because if you do outlaw one religion or one sect of a religion, what's to say the next person that comes in there doesn't like your religion, and so they do the same thing back to you. You know what I mean? Like I do think there is a danger to starting that because it's just never going to stop.
Yeah, you always have to think ahead. There's every bill that comes across my desk. Um, it's not about fleeting feelings or what we can fix tomorrow. As much as that, it's in 10 years down the road, how could this piece of legislation or this statute negatively impact people in my district? I think we
Hmm.
got to be smart. We got to be long-term thinkers. That would apply to what you're talking about there, but it applies to every bill. How could this be exploited? How could it negatively impact people? If this tax credit goes into place, who would it penalize? Would this group be paying more because this group is getting a handout? I'm constantly thinking that.
Hmm. And I think that's why you're doing so well. I mean, see, like I think it's why you're doing so well. I mean, I wish we had representatives like you in Michigan, Joe. I mean, like literally, I can. I mean, dude, your passion bleeds through for your people. You go, you live, you are in the district. You care. You have town meetings. Like that's how this should work. And I just want to congratulate you and just say, like, job well done, brother. Like,
Thank you.
the people should be proud
There's more of us
to
out
have
there.
you represented them.
There.
And hopefully more, and hopefully more and more. I'd love to see more people like you be in politics, honestly.
We need principled people for sure.
Well, wrap up with two more things because I know you have a million things to get to. The issue I have with podcasting, brother, is I love chatting so much that we could riff for another hour. But then I always have to remember other people have lives. So I guess we'll have to do podcast round 2, I guess. Is there anything else you have going on in your life that you want to, talk about, promote? I know you mentioned there are some other things that you're passionate about. I want to give you an opportunity to do that real quick.
Yeah, so we had talked about free speech earlier. So I just want to mention something I've been working on in the State House. It's called the Free Speech and Higher Education Bill. So the most egregious violations of free speech are in academia. So I just pulled up before we came on the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. The acronym is FIRE. Their free speech rankings. They measured 257 schools, higher ed schools, universities across the U.S., and the University of Pennsylvania is 231 out of 257. Pitt is 219 out of 257, and Temple is 204 out of 257. So that's those are 3 universities here in the Commonwealth. What's happening at a lot of our universities is they quell free speech with these apparatuses called bias reporting systems or bias response teams. So what happens is, it can be something as docile as disagreeing in philosophy class with a left-wing idea. And that student who feels triggered or offended can anonymously report that student to, this faculty advisor that has the authority then to reprimand the student. Now, there's a spectrum of things that can happen. Certainly, you would want some kind of recourse if there's actually like a threat or, a violent incident. That would be against the university's policy. But what we're seeing with a lion's share of these cases is, and first of all, an anonymous reporting of a disagreement is like
It's dangerous.
It's the antithesis of college.
Yeah.
Those are your formative years. It would be beneficial for that student to speak up in class and have a dialogue, work it out. Like that's how, your worldview develops and is framed in college. And the antithesis of that is this anonymous reporting system. So my bill would eliminate those. I don't think there's any place for them. I think that would, negate this anonymous tattletaling that we're seeing. And the other thing that my bill would achieve would sometimes universities with an incoming speaker, like we saw it at Pitt with like a Michael Knowles or a Riley Gaines, what they do is they assess a speaking fee that's like a crazy high speaking fee to discourage them coming. Whereas, if it was a liberal speaker, that might not happen. So my bill
Mm.
would equalize that so that, it's the same. It's the same for any.
Yeah, just the encouraging of free speech,
Yep.
the encouraging of free thought. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's something I've been speaking out against, and harking back rather to what we had talked about with free speech, with the Republicans even reacting in an emotional way to Charlie Kirk. I was the first one to say to my Republican colleagues in the House, knock it off.
Yeah.
Hate speech is vile, but it's constitutionally protected. We don't want to go down
Mhm.
that road. Not only is it unconstitutional, but we don't want to set that precedent because the pendulum can always swing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you can't be inconsistent. You can't preach one thing when you don't have power this whole time, then the moment you might get it, you can't just flip.
yep,
That's how you kill momentum and you kill trust.
yep,
So you can't do that.
yeah.
Um,
The other thing that I've been spending a lot of time on is school choice. Just the idea of
oh yeah.
state money following a student or family to their school of choice. What we've seen with public ed, and I'm not against public ed, we're actually constitutionally obligated in Pennsylvania to fund it. My mom was a public school teacher for 35 years. I'm a product of the public school. But the trends speak for themselves. We spend about $23,000 per pupil in Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, there has been no correlation with increased spending in better aptitude, better test results. What we have seen is an increase in administration hires. So, teachers are remaining, they're sustaining, they're getting paid the same. They have natural increases depending on their collective bargaining agreement, but we're adding all of these administrators. That's where a lot of the cost is coming from. But also,
mm,
I think the system that was set up, in the 1930s, this community school, public school model is antiquated. Generation Z is a very self-taught, brand unloyal, project-based learning group. And I think it's really uncreative, and it comes at a detriment to Generation Z and Alpha Gen behind them to continue doing business as usual. And I think
yep.
school choice equalizes that. It creates competition, which we know in the
Yes, that's what I was gonna
marketplace.
say.
In the marketplace,
Yep.
that always drives the price down and the quality of the product up. And we're seeing in places like Florida, a study was done a couple of years ago that showed public school outcomes are going up because of their universal school choice tax credit. So I want all students in Pennsylvania to succeed. And I know that the way we do that is school choice. Now, unfortunately, very partisan issue. The state teachers union, very opposed to it. They wield a lot of power. They write a lot of campaign checks. So they stand in the way. But I'll never stop fighting for this because this is one of those die on a hill convictions I have. I want all students to succeed, and I know the avenue to get there is school choice.
Are you familiar with Erica Donalds?
Yes.
So that's Byron Donald's wife. So she's a very, very big school choice advocate in Florida
Mm-hmm.
and very monumental in this movement. She'd be great for your podcast, by the way, if you want. She's amazing. Because I think Byron Donalds is probably going to be the next Florida governor, if I had to guess. But dude, yeah, my dad is a Christian school principal, private school principal. I grew up in a small little school, like not this big, Matt, like a small little, like K4 through 12, be like 100 students,
Mm-hmm.
right? Small, but I loved it. It was the best experience of my life. I was able to get one-on-one time with teachers if I needed help. Like it was just the best thing. And what you said is so true. If you are a low income family, you live in a city, you don't have any control of where you get to go. Because the pushback for public school is like, well, listen, if you don't like the public school district, you can always move to a different city. There is school choice. It's like, no, well, not for a low income family that is they're at where they're at. They can't move.
Right.
like, they are stuck with whatever school system is in there, and there's zero competition because, hey, these people have to come here. Doesn't matter if we give them a bad education, good education,
Yep.
they're stuck.
There's schools.
And
There's schools in Philadelphia where the reading and math proficiency levels are in the single digits, and
yeah,
those kids don't have a chance to get out. We have a
yeah.
couple of school choice provisions in the state,
Mm,
OSTC and EITC scholarship tax credit scholarships that businesses can donate to. But the waiting list is a mile long. We tried to get Lifeline scholarships done last session. Governor Shapiro actually campaigned on that. It would be a
mm.
$100 million appropriation for kids trapped in the bottom 15% of schools. There was a factor for income. So these are kids that desperately need to get out of their public school. And he ended up vetoing that after campaigning on it. So
Well, that's
it's
fun.
an uphill battle in Pennsylvania, but it's one worth fighting.
Have you guys considered chartering? Like, do you guys like, can private schools charter and get funding right now in Pennsylvania?
So that's there's a clause in our Constitution that doesn't allow public funding for the private schools. We do have regular charter schools and cyber charter schools, but those are public schools, so they're within.
Because Ohio now allows private schools to charter and to get funds.
Yep.
And that has been a game changer for Ohio.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a middle ground on school choice a little bit, where it's like it's not like full school choice, but now you have private schools allowed to, you know, get kids that would have been otherwise at a public school for state paid.
Yeah. So under my bill, it wouldn't go to the private entities themselves. It would follow the student. They would enroll in the program, and then certain educational expenses would
It would go to the families directly.
go to the families. Yep.
Are you concerned with families abusing that money?
It would be something we would need to watch. I know in Arizona they had a learning curve where they had to stamp down on some expenses that were not appropriate. But the luxury we have is that we've gotten to learn from Arizona's mistakes, Indiana's mistakes. All of.
So there's other states that have tried this model.
Oh yeah, yeah. Florida
okay.
has. Texas just got it done. I don't know the mechanics of their bill, but Florida is a tax credit. Arizona has an education savings account, which is similar to the bill I've introduced.
Okay. Well, good, man. Yeah. Well, how can people support you? Like, how can my listeners like learn more or support you, even if they don't live in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. So I have a podcast of my own. They can check that out. I've had really awesome guests on, like Nick Freitas, Riley Gaines, Corey DeAngelis, and that's called Straight to the Point. That's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. And my website is repjod.com.
Well, perfect, brother. Well, we'll make sure we link your podcast in the description. I'll definitely try to make sure all my followers go subscribe, follow, give you 5 stars on Apple, all that kind of stuff. I'm for sure listening to the Nick and the Riley episode. Those have been 2 dream guests of ours since day one. Has been dream guests for those. Like when I first heard Riley Gaines on Joe Rogan, I was like, I want her on the podcast. And then I followed Nick for years. So it'll be fun to hear you guys talk, and I'll live vicariously through you as a host. That's going to be amazing.
Riley's so brave. She has a lot of courage, and Nick is the best that I've seen at explaining something in detail in short form. He just has a skill for it. He's realized that the legacy media won't cover anything that he wants to put out, so he took to social media, and now he has millions of followers. That's the way to do it.
Blown up. Yeah, both of them are great people and brave in their own right. And wasn't Nick like a former Green Beret
He was.
too? Like he's just a stud.
I wouldn't want to
Like,
mess with Nick.
no, he's a stud, dude. He's awesome. Well, we'll definitely promote your podcast as much as we possibly can. And Joe, this has been a blast, brother. Like, shout out Cliff to introducing us as well. And thank you, man. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for chatting with me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I could have talked to you for another hour because you're so down to earth. You explain things well, and I love seeing people like you serve our nation. So I appreciate that a lot, man.
Yeah, thank you, Dillon. It was an honor to join you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, brother. All right. And guys, thank you for coming to this episode of the Dillon England Show. As always, share with a friend, give it to your mom, make her listen to it. I don't know, put it on in the car, whatever you want to do. And please go and follow Joe's podcast now. Go follow Joe. Everything he's doing in Pennsylvania. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Dillon England Show. Thanks. Cool. Thanks, brother.